The dark side of being too kind. Hook, midnight to 0:45. Everyone tells us the same thing. Be kind. Help others. Put people first. And at first, that sounds like good advice. But what if I told you that being too kind can quietly destroy your confidence, your happiness, your relationships, and even your identity? What if the very trait people praise you for is the same trait that's making you exhausted, resentful, and invisible? The truth is, kindness is beautiful. But kindness without boundaries becomes self-destruction. And today, we're going to talk about the dark side of being too kind. Because sometimes the people who suffer the most aren't the cruel ones. They're the ones who are always nice. Part 1. The person everyone loves, 0:45 to 2:15. Imagine someone named Sarah. She's the person everyone calls when they need help. Need a ride? Call Sarah. Need someone to cover your shift? Call Sarah. Need emotional support at 2 a.m.? Call Sarah. She's always available. Always understanding. Always forgiving. Everyone says she's amazing. But what nobody sees is what happens when Sarah gets home. She's exhausted, overwhelmed, stressed, and secretly wondering why nobody seems to care about her needs. The problem isn't that Sarah is kind. The problem is that she believes being kind means never saying no. And that's where everything starts to fall apart. Part 2. Kindness can become a trap, 2:15 to 4 o'clock. Most people think kindness and self-sacrifice are the same thing. They're not. Real kindness comes from choice. People-pleasing comes from fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of conflict. Fear of disappointing others. Many overly kind people aren't helping because they want to. They're helping because they feel guilty if they don't. They say yes when they want to say no. They apologize when they've done nothing wrong. They stay silent when they're being disrespected. And slowly, their kindness stops being a gift. It becomes a prison. Because every time you ignore your own needs to keep others happy, you're sending yourself a message. My needs matter less. Over time, that message becomes your identity. Part 3. People start taking you for granted, 4 to 5:30. Here's an uncomfortable truth. People often value what is limited, not what is constantly available. If you're always saying yes, people stop appreciating your sacrifices. They start expecting them. Think about it. The coworker who always stays late. The friend who always pays. The family member who always fixes everyone's problems. At first, they're appreciated. Eventually, they're taken for granted. Not because people are evil, but because humans adapt quickly. What was once seen as generosity becomes seen as obligation. And suddenly, the person who gives the most receives the least. Part 4. The hidden resentment, 5:30 to 7 o'clock. This is the part nobody talks about. Many overly kind people secretly become resentful. Not because they're bad people, but because they're constantly giving more than they can afford. Imagine pouring water into everyone else's cup, day after day, year after year, without ever refilling your own. Eventually, you're empty. And when you're empty, something dangerous happens. You begin expecting people to notice your sacrifices, to appreciate them, to repay them. And when they don't, the resentment grows. You think, after everything I've done for them. But here's the painful truth. Many people never asked for those sacrifices. You volunteered them. That's why unspoken expectations create hidden anger. Part 5. Kind people attract users, 7 to 8:30. Not everyone who enters your life has good intentions. Most people are decent. But some people actively look for those with weak boundaries. And overly kind people often become easy targets. Manipulators can sense guilt. They can sense the inability to say no. They know exactly how to use phrases like, "If you really cared about me, I thought you were different. I guess I'll do it myself." And because kind people hate disappointing others, they give in. Again, and again, and again, until they're emotionally drained. The sad reality is this. Being kind doesn't guarantee you'll be treated kindly. Sometimes it simply makes you easier to exploit. Unless you learn boundaries. Part 6. You lose yourself, 8:30 to 10 o'clock. Perhaps the darkest consequence of being too kind is losing your identity. Think about it. If your entire life revolves around making everyone else comfortable, when do you ask what you want? When do you express your opinions? When do you pursue your dreams? Many people spend years becoming exactly who others need them to be. A perfect friend. A perfect employee. A perfect partner. A perfect child. And somewhere along the way, they forget who they actually are. They become strangers to themselves. Because every decision is based on one question. What will other people think? Instead of, what do I truly want? And that's a dangerous way to live. Part 7. The difference between kindness and weakness, 10 to 11:30. Let's make something clear. Kindness is not weakness. But weakness often disguises itself as kindness. Real kindness has boundaries. Real kindness can say no. Real kindness can walk away from toxic people. Real kindness can protect its own energy. The strongest people aren't the ones who give everything away. They're the ones who know when to give and when to stop. Because you cannot pour from an empty cup. And you cannot save everyone while abandoning yourself. Healthy kindness says, I care about you. But it also says, I care about me too. Conclusion, 11:30 to 12:30. If you're someone who has always been called too nice, remember this. You do not need to earn love through sacrifice. You do not need to say yes to everything. You do not need to carry everyone's problems. And you do not need to shrink yourself so others can feel comfortable. The goal isn't to become selfish. The goal is to become balanced. Be kind. Be compassionate. Be generous. But never at the cost of your own peace. Because the moment kindness starts hurting you more than it's helping others, it stops being kindness and starts becoming self-neglect. The people who truly love you won't leave when you set boundaries. They'll respect them. And the people who disappear, they were benefiting from your lack of boundaries, not your kindness. So here's a question. Are you being kind because you genuinely want to be, or because you're afraid of what will happen if you stop? The answer might change your life.